Good morning. How's everyone feeling? Everyone ready to work today? Ready to change some lives? Ready to help a bunch of people out? How we doing? Oh my Lord. Everyone's on mute. All right. And no one's on video. Hello? Hello?
I'm here, Bill.
All right. All right. Let's get a little bit more interactive, okay, guys? This is supposed to get you excited for the day.
I'm here. I'm just curling my hair. I really don't want you to see that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about handling objections. It looks like people are starting to file in. Let's go ahead and ask you guys, since you are the first ones here, what are some of the objections that you've been struggling with lately? And we'll make sure to touch on those today. What are you experiencing out there?
I'm actually getting people who are finding buyers because people like put letters in their mailboxes. I've had 2 recently where they get contacted directly to a buyer, so they don't need an agent.
Okay, explain that to me one more time.
So
you know somebody who gets a letter that says that they're working with a buyer?
Yeah, right. They claim they got the letter directly from a potential buyer, not through an agent in their mailbox.
Yeah.
So they just sell for sale by owner directly to the buyer. I had 2 of them. Yeah.
So you're actually aware of 2 people that got a letter directly from a buyer and sold off market to that buyer, and neither person had an agent?
Correct.
I would be willing to bet somebody got the short end of that stick.
Well, I did suspect one of them had an agent, and I, carefully, tried to press that, and they are former neighbors, and they were, pretty upfront.
What do you mean? It turned out, just ask.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did. So he said that the buyer did have an agent, but that the buyer paid the agent, and he didn't have to pay the agent, he claims. So
okay,
I don't know.
So what did we learn from that?
Oh, I wish I had more buyers. I don't know.
No, wrong. No, wrong.
Oh, okay.
If anything, you want to wish you have more sellers. Okay. What we know is that buyer's agent was working harder than you were, right? Like, they took the time to write a letter and it actually worked. That could have been you that wrote the letter and you that got the listing, right? Or you that made the contact and identified the fact that somebody needed help, and then you delivered that help. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we said yesterday that somewhere between 10 and 12%, so let's just call it 11% of the population in general will move every year, right? So statistically speaking, if people move every, let's say, 8 to 9 years, they're moving every 11% of the population is moving every year, which means that 11% of your database on average is moving every year. So if you don't have 11% of your database in your pipeline, you are missing deals, right? So your chief responsibility right now is to comb through that database to determine who has a goal to do something this year that you're just not aware of, because they will do it, and they will do it without you if you don't make sure they know you're there to help. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, just so you know, that seller God, it pains me to even hear that, because that seller almost certainly did not get what they could have gotten for the home. And what I mean by that is there's roughly 8 billion people in the world, and they let one person know that home was available, right? That is not strategic, okay? If you want to maximize the price and terms that you get for a property, you should maximize the exposure. So if they think that, like, they, found a needle in the haystack and found a buyer who somebody else paid their commission, and they didn't have to pay a listing agent, and they went through the whole thing without an agent, and they think they got maximum value, they're flat out wrong. Y'all see where I'm coming from on that? So she can think all day long that she got a great deal, but the fact of the matter is she probably left money on the table. Y'all hear me?
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
virtually
even
no
though
reason
the
to sell privately right now. None.
Right, and I did emphasize that they probably gave in to, or not gave in, you know what I mean? They probably agreed to other things that they wouldn't have had to if they had an agent. That probably cost them money, among the fact that it wasn't open on the market. So who knows? Even though their price that they got seemed, in my opinion, good.
Reasonable.
It doesn't matter. We don't know if it would have went higher, if there were multiple offers out there and if it was exposed everywhere. Yep, could
Well,
have gotten multiple higher offers.
The other thing we know is that does she still live in the area? Has she purchased again?
Yeah, that's another thing. They actually purchased over in Savannah, quite a ways away. But
Okay,
she at the time we discussed it, they weren't even considering that, or I would have done a referral and other things. But
yes, there's a lot of takeaways there. The deeper the relationship and the more you know about their goals, the increased likelihood you have of being compensated to help. And at one moment, they don't have a goal for something, and in a split second, now all of a sudden they do. So the more you can communicate with these people and make sure that, as I've used this phrase before, I don't want any of my people to make any real estate decisions without speaking to me first. And it's not because I think I'm holier than thou. It's because I study the market more than they study it. And there's a good chance I can give them some tips and strategies and advice that will protect them more than they would be protected otherwise, or give them better terms than they would have otherwise. Does that make sense? So that should be a sign. That's more and more proof that we got to dive deep into our database and go re-energize some of those relationships. Does that make sense?
absolutely, yeah. But that's what it did, is it just spurred me to contact more people.
Exactly. And remember, the attitude that you should have when you're making these phone calls is, if they don't work with me, there's a chance that they could not have their interests represented properly. And so I'm making this call not so I can get a paycheck, but so that they can get what they need and they can be protected. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. All right, is everyone tired today? What's going on? What's going on? What are we struggling with?
I had an objection the other day. Not that I didn't struggle with it, but just just something that I came across about somebody who was saying that they typically like to work with somebody who's more experienced. So yeah, I mean, I just I kind of relied on the fact that I let them know, I check the markets every day. I continue to educate myself on the markets, tactics, and that I have a name behind me as well with other agents who are plenty experienced. So
Okay. So how did they even know how experienced you were?
they asked me.
And what did you say?
I told them that I was 2 years in.
Okay. And they said right then and there, we prefer to work with somebody that's more experienced. Because I know agents that have been in the business 20 years that have sold 20 houses total, right? So that the number of years you've been in the business is not an indication of how successful you are.
Right, which is true, which is very true.
So one of the keys to handling objections is we got to really know what they're objecting to, right? We got to dig a little deeper to figure out what it is that's bothering them about what they happen to be talking about. So if somebody were to have said that to me, I'd be like, I hear what you're saying. So tell me what specifically, that's a good line. What specifically is important to you about working with an agent with more years in the business,
Yeah.
right?
And
And then they'll say, well, we want somebody that's had more transactions. And you might say, I understand that. What specifically is more important about that? Or are you aware of the number of transactions this agent has done versus me? You didn't ask me how many transactions I did. You asked me how long I'm in the business. You don't even know the answer to that. You see what I'm saying?
right, right.
Now, one other thing which is going to cause you to get less and less of that type of commentary is just being better practiced when you're going into these meetings, right? So if you are sharp on the sales or buying process, if you're sharp at explaining the expectations and the kind of what the market is like, right? If you're sharp with your marketing plan and you can handle, the back and forth conversations, it's under very, very rare circumstances would they say, well, how long have you been in the business, or what's your volume, or something like that. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And the thing is too, so they asked me that, but then they said that, in that same sentence, they said, I like somebody more experienced, but you did, a good job, explaining, and it seems like you know what you're doing. And so they kind of, you know,
So what was the
said,
conclusion?
so we had an appointment, and so what we did was, they were kind of a little on the fence, because they were telling me, not on the fence exactly, but they were telling me that they had other agents that contacted them that didn't do, kind of what I do, as far as they're a buyer, and they're out of state, and they were, you know they were telling me they were talking to agents that kind of essentially said, hey, you do your own search, you tell me what you find, and we can settle it from there. And so what I did was, let them know that, of course you can find your own properties, but I also take a look for you, and I set you up on a search. So essentially
Right.
they
And
were
I'm calling prospects all day long to try to find buyers for sellers and sellers for my buyers.
right. So
So do you
I mean,
guys see how you can leverage the fact that you lead generate consistently to all of your prospects? And that sounds impressive. I mean, it is impressive, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what you could say is you always want to try to move the prospect closer to a decision, right? So if they
Mhm.
vocalize some form of disappointment with the agents that they've met with, then you could
Mhm.
basically say something. So it sounds like you're still looking. You've kind of eliminated those options because you weren't satisfied with their approach. Is that correct? And they may not have been asked that question directly, like by their spouse, let's say, hey, are we not considering this person anymore? Right? But you can guide them through that process by highlighting the differentiation between your approach and their approach, which they're not even happy with. Right? So it sounds
Right.
like you're still looking, and you've
Right.
eliminated the possibility of you working with agent one because you didn't like their approach to the search. You've eliminated your desire to work with agent two because you didn't like their approach to their explanation of the process. Is that correct?
Mhm.
I guess so. So let me ask you, what is the most important thing you're looking for in an agent? Right? Every person is different. And, myself and my team, we love people and we love helping people. So I want to make sure that I'm helping you in exactly the way you want to be helped. So, Eric, what is most important to you about this process? Or what's the most important thing you'll be looking for when you go and hire an agent? Because keep in mind, if they, let's say that I just met, I'm the buyer, or let's say I'm the
Mhm.
seller, and Victoria was the very first agent that came into my came to interview with me. And then Eric, let's say you're next, and then Eric says, have you met or do you plan on meeting with other agents? And I say, well, I've met with this woman Victoria, and then you should say, so how come you didn't hire her?
Mhm.
right? Why did you choose not to hire her? Now, that's very powerful because it's going to cause them to say something, you know, it's going to cause them to voice their a concern. At which
Right.
point you want to make that a little bit more obvious. So you might say, or I might say, well, I didn't hire her because, I wasn't crazy about her marketing plan, or like she seemed inexperienced or something like that. And then you might say, okay, I hear that. So the other agent you're considering, gave you the impression she's not as experienced, and she wasn't as clear on, the process, and maybe not be able to protect you as much. So what is it that's most important to you, right? And you've kind of shifted the focus a little bit. You've eliminated this other person. If it wasn't perfectly clear before, it's very perfectly clear now that she's no longer a contender. And then I'm the one looking you right in the face, basically saying, how do I help you? What do you want me to do to service you? How do you want to be served? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so the kind of to give you insight, see if you can kind of give insight on this. So what we did was, what I did was, we had our appointment, talked for a while. They're actually out of state. So we talked for a while, kind of built some good rapport. And so I ended it on, trying to get go for the BBA to get that signed. But so what they said was they wanted to, take time to review. So I
Take
set
time
up,
to review what? The BBA?
yeah. So what?
Yeah,
So
obviously. I get that. So don't even go for it. Hey, sign this so we can continue talking, because they're going to review it. I mean, you want them to review the contract, right?
Mhm.
And when you speak in a confident way, you say, okay, well, the next step of our process together is, this is a document called the buyer brokerage agreement. And this is what it says, and this is what it means. And this is, I would expect you to review it, right? It's almost like a takeaway clause to some degree. I would expect you to review it, right? Please read through it. Let me know if you have any questions. And here's the purpose that it serves. And when you're ready, you can sign it. Okay. Guys, don't be so in your face about the BBA. Even if they sign it, they can ghost you. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll get it signed if you're just like a tiny bit more casual about it. Hey, here's a document. It's part of the process. If you're not ready to sign it today, that's fine. I expect to show you that I'm the one you want to work with. Okay.
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah.
Going back to the inexperienced topic, would that be a good time to introduce the possibility of like co-agent, something along the lines of like, if number of units is your concern, there's an agent on my team that has done, X number of units in the past 12 months, I can bring her on, or I don't know, something along those lines.
Yeah, that I would probably bring that right up as I felt like I was losing it, but I wouldn't volunteer that right away.
Right.
Okay. I got to tell you guys, if you're getting that objection, you just got to practice more. Right? We want to get to the point where we don't get that objection. I can specifically remember one listing appointment that I went on. I've almost never got that objection. One listing appointment I went on, the guy handed me a spreadsheet, and he wanted me to fill out January, February, March, April, May, number of phone calls, number of appointments, number of listings taken, number of listings expired, days on the market, percentage of list price to sales price ratio, blah, blah, blah. He wanted me to fill all that out. And I was relatively young, and if he was going to judge me on that, I wasn't going to win, right? And I looked at him, I said, I'm not going to fill that out. I said, if you're going to judge me specifically on this, I'm not going to win. But what I can tell you is I know exactly what your home is going to sell for, and ain't no one going to work harder than me. And he hired somebody else, which is fine, because he was proving to me he was a little difficult to work with. And the home sold exactly what I told him it would sell for. Okay. So, at some point, like, again, if the person is showing themselves to not be a good partner, or to be maybe a little more difficult than you want to work with, then go find another lead. And don't sweat it. You see what I'm saying? That's the beauty of lead generation, is when you have a lot of leads, you can decide which ones you want to work with. If you don't do enough lead generation, you don't have enough leads, and then you end up working with some lousy ones, right? Okay, one important concept with respect to objection handling is you want to repeat and affirm it, right? You want to make sure that they know you heard exactly what their challenge is. So it might be, hey, Bill, we like you, but we don't want to pay 6%. Okay, I can appreciate that. Other than the fact that you're not ready to pay 6% right now, is there anything that's preventing us from moving forward tonight, right? That's what's called, so you're repeating it, that way they know you're listening, and that way you can, in some respects, it gives you a moment for that part of your brain to get ready to speak, right? And you isolate the objection, which is, other than the objection, is there any reason why we wouldn't get started tonight, right? And then that would force them to say, well, I have one other concern too. Okay, so great. We just need to know, I need to know every roadblock I've got to overcome, or every obstacle I've got to overcome. Or more than likely, they'll say, no, we like you. That's the only thing we need to talk about. Okay, so other than the fact that you don't want to pay 6%, is there anything that would stop us from working together tonight? No, that's the only issue we have. So tell me, have you been offered less? Have you been speaking to another agent that offered to do it for less? Right? And they'll probably say yes. Say, great, how much did they offer to do it for? Now you're speaking a little bit with this like kind of curiosity, like, gosh, somebody would be willing to take less? I'm so curious. I'm surprised, like a little bit of shock and curiosity. So how much were they willing to sell it for, or to charge you? Oh, or they were going to do it for 5%. Okay, so are they going to still give the 3% to the other agent? I think they weren't really clear on that. Okay, so the other agent will get their 3%, so it won't look too different on the buyer end, but this other person is willing to take 2%. Did I hear that correctly? Right, you want to be super clear about what you're talking about. Did I hear that correctly? Yeah, did I hear that correctly? Like, oh my gosh, somebody would do that? You see what I'm saying? And they'll say, yes, 2%. Say, great. Did they happen to share any details with you about their listing price to sales price ratio and their days on the market and how that compared with other agents? No, they didn't say a word about that. Interesting. Okay. Well, let me share with you. The average home on the market sells for 97.5% of the market listing price, and it sells in 27 days. My statistics are I sell my listings for 99.2% of list price in 8 days. So do you think that if the other agent had just incredible statistics, they probably would have shared it with you? Well, yeah, I guess so. So does that concern you in any way? Yeah, it does. Okay, so what I've shown you is that I can outperform the market, and historically have outperformed the market by, let's say, 2.5%. So we're actually causing you to make more money by working with me. Do you see that? And they say, yes, say, are you ready to get started? Right? And maybe they object again, and you isolate it again, and you go a different route, right? So what you're trying to do is help them understand that it's not just about how many dollars you spend. There's all kinds of objection handlers, right? That they pay certain people to negotiate certain things, right? So like, let's say, let's see, like governments, okay, when they want to negotiate certain, trade deals and these kind of things, do you think they send in a master negotiator, or do you think they send in just the first guy that's interested in the job? The assumption is that the market will sell the home for whatever the market will sell the home for. I don't agree with that. I think the agent's power of negotiation and presentation and all that could cause the home to sell for something slightly different, which could be and likely is more than the 1% we're fighting over. Does that make sense? All right, talk to me now.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So first thing we want to do is repeat. Then we want to isolate. Other than this, is there anything stopping us from getting started today? Right? Then you want to create doubt around their concern. Right? Legitimate doubt. By the way, for agents that don't have a track record of selling listings, you can use our market centers data. Okay. I shared it a while back with the stats were. Let me see if I can find it really fast again. Hang on one second. Any questions right now? Let me see when the last time we updated this. Okay, so so interestingly enough, the stats for Keller Williams Roswell are not as good as they used to be. Okay, so the detached listings, so single family homes listings, average list price to sales price across the market is 99%. KW Roswell is 98.67%. So clearly I wouldn't use that. Okay. However, they do sell in 5 days on the market on average at KW Roswell compared to 17 days on the market. Okay. Did that other agent that you're interviewing share with you the average number of days that they sell a home in and how that compares to the local market? I'm a part of an office where we sell homes 3 times faster than the market. And you create this awkward silence if necessary so that they can let that sink in, right? Condos and townhomes, which are attached properties, the market at large is 98.5% of list price to sales price ratio. Our office is 101.46. Okay, so we're nearly 3% better at list price to sales price ratio in attached properties, condos and townhomes. And the days on the market there is 27 for the market at large and 11 for Roswell. So we sell homes between 2 and 3 times faster than the market at large. Is that something that would be important to you? Well, sure. Great. Are you ready to get started? Right? The second they're on board with you, you close again. Are you ready to get started? Not, are you ready to get started? Because then they're like, well, I was thinking about it, but now you've caused me to be curious again. Are you ready to get started? Right, downswing, silence. See what I'm saying? Okay, now, go ahead, Eric.
So I kind of wanted to ask a question, kind of like on the flip side. So of the ready to get started for a buyer, for my situation that I was speaking about a little bit earlier. So for this specific situation, so what I was planning on doing was checking back in with them this week, just hopping on a phone call, because I set them up on an FMLS search and everything like that. So I was going to kind of hop on a phone call and kind of, not necessarily bring up, as soon as I get on the phone, hey, you want to sign the BBA? But I was going to, kind of check in and say, is the search going good? Do you seeing things that you like and, things like that? And then bring up, getting the BBA signed. What would you kind of say to that effect?
Have you ever met them before?
This is an internet lead.
I wouldn't be talking about the BBA until you meet them.
Okay.
They don't know anything about you. I mean, it's not a commentary on you, but you haven't shown them that you do anything yet, other than sending them on a search, which is, no offense, but that's very common, right?
Right.
So don't push them for a commitment yet. You haven't even met them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I think that sometimes we lean a little too heavy, honestly, on the automated search.
Mm-hmm.
If we set them up on an automated search, we're not separating ourselves from the competition.
Right.
What we do to celebrate or to separate ourselves from the competition is maybe to let's just take it like a slight step above that, which is you copy yourself on the automated search. So whatever they get, you get. So you're never going to get caught basically where they call you and say, hey, did you see that new one on Hill Street? And you're like, no, what are you talking about? Right? You should say, oh yeah, the one with the 2-story family room that looks out on that creek. Yeah, that's beautiful. When do you want to see it? Right? And every couple of days, you should show the guy that you're online looking for him. And you say, hey, I came across this property when I was looking for homes specifically for you. Is this one that you would like me to go do a virtual tour and, you know, do a Zoom with you so you can see the inside? Make sure they know that you're actually thinking about them, because the automated search just proves that you were thinking about them for 2 minutes a month ago.
Bill, I'm doing that exact thing today. Like, same thing. I have a client dragging his feet a little bit. So to keep him hot, I've already set him up on a search. And being that I know exactly what it is that he wants, I'm going to go preview the house today. And I'm going to send him the video via WhatsApp. So that way it's just like separating myself from someone else, you know, just showing that value. So it's taking a step above. And also what I did, I sent the video message, you know, just, hey, how's your day going? Simple things like that to kind of keep it work and human. And sometimes small things like that just do it. So
I'm going to tell you right now, Ebony, almost all the time, small things like that just do it. Okay. I mean, look, I'm going to be a little firm, little in your face this morning. There's a lot of us that don't have that many clients. Okay. So you got the time to give them a little custom attention. Okay. When you have a lot of clients, you need a system for that. So you might say, hey, every day from 10 to 10:15, I, you know, take my 4 hottest leads and I send them I let them know I'm specifically thinking about them. Okay. But if you've got 1 client or 3 clients and you're not doing that kind of stuff for them, there is several places in your day you're wasting time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Boy, you guys are really quiet today. You got me a little concerned. Is everything okay? Did I say something?
no, it's just Wednesday.
What's that mean?
I don't know. It's the middle of the week. It's kind of like a blah day for me. Wednesdays are my blah day.
Well, if you're not going to work, you better go have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm going to work.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to work.
When we're working, we're all in working. And when we're having fun, we're all out, right? Isn't that what we do? So decide if you're going to work today and go work. And if you're not going to work today, then quit thinking about work today. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully this is the very last meeting where I have 15 people on it and I don't see a single face. It's very tough to communicate with a bunch of black squares, okay? Can y'all do me that favor?
Sure.
Okay, we should be at our workstation ready to work. It's 9 o'clock, right? There's a lot of people out there that are gonna make mistakes today with real estate decisions because we didn't call them. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.